My fiancée sneered. My ex proposed to me, and I said yes, so I kicked her out. And when she later found out her precious ex had cheated on her, she came crawling back. That's when I taught her a lesson she will never forget. Alright, guys. This is going to be a long one, but I need to get this off my chest, because honestly, what the hell just happened to my life? I'm 31, male, and I work as an electrician. I've been doing it for about 8 years now. It's decent money, steady work, the kind of job where you know what your hands are worth at the end of the day. I was engaged to Sasha, 29, female. She's a physical therapist at some fancy sports medicine clinic downtown. We'd been together for 4 years total, living together for the last 2. I proposed back in February, and she said yes. Everything seemed fine after that. Normal. Good. Even. We started talking wedding plans. She wanted a fall wedding the following year, a big church ceremony, reception at a country club. I was fine with it. I didn't need flashy, but if that's what she wanted, I was on board. My parents loved her. Her seemed to like me well enough. Everything felt like it was moving forward exactly the way it was supposed to. And then this happened. I was on a job site all day, running new electrical in an office building downtown. Long day, dirty work, crawling through ceilings, breathing in dust, dealing with ancient wiring that should have been ripped out and replaced decades ago. The kind of day where your body hurts in places you didn't know could hurt. I got home around 6 p.m., covered in dust and insulation, wanting nothing more than a hot shower and some food. Sasha's car was already in the driveway. That immediately struck me as weird. Tuesdays were usually her late days, administrative stuff, monthly meetings with the other therapists, billing paperwork. I never paid much attention to the specifics, just knew she usually got home late. But there her car was. I walked inside, and she was sitting on the couch, still in her work clothes. But something about her was off. She looked different, excited, nervous. It was that look people get when they're about to tell you news but aren't sure how you'll react. The kind of look you see when someone's pregnant, or got a promotion, or won the lottery. I dropped my tool bag by the door, and she immediately said, "Alex, can we talk? I need to tell you something." That tone. That specific tone women get right before they drop something heavy on you. I sighed. "Okay, what's up?" She took a deep breath, like she was bracing herself, and then she just said it. "Jonathan proposed to me today." Just like that. No build-up. No explanation. Straight to the point. I actually laughed. I honestly thought she was joking. Some weird story from work, or something she saw on social media. But she wasn't smiling. She just stared at me, completely serious, waiting for my reaction. That's when my brain finally caught up. Jonathan. Her high school boyfriend from about 10 years ago. I'd heard stories about him over the years, but I always thought he was ancient history. A footnote in her past. I asked her when she'd started seeing her ex. She told me she'd been meeting with him for a while. Meeting. Not running into him randomly at the store. Not him messaging her on Facebook once. Meeting. Planned, scheduled meetings. She said it had been going on since March. 2 months. She'd been secretly meeting her high school ex for 2 months. 2 months right after we got engaged. While I was working overtime to pay for a wedding ring. While we were looking at venues and talking about our future together. And when he proposed, she said yes. It felt like someone punched me straight in the chest. I just sat there, staring at this woman I'd been planning to spend my life with. This woman wearing my engagement ring while calmly telling me she'd accepted another man's proposal. Suddenly, everything from the past 2 months made perfect sense. The late nights weren't patient care. She was meeting Jonathan. The secretive phone calls weren't work-related. She was talking to Jonathan. The new clothes and makeup weren't about professionalism. She was dressing up for Jonathan. The emotional distance wasn't cold feet about our engagement. She was falling for someone else. I told her, "Take off my ring." "Alex, let me explain." "Take off the ring, Sasha." She slowly pulled it off her finger and placed it on the coffee table between us. 3 months of my salary, sitting there like it meant absolutely nothing. You have 1 hour to pack your things and get out. Alex, please. Let's talk about this. 1 hour. She tried to explain, but there was nothing to explain. She'd already made her choice, and it wasn't me. I walked out and sat in my truck, hands shaking from anger and shock, and called my sister. Evelyn offered to come over, but I didn't want anyone there yet. I just needed Sasha gone. Out of my house. Out of my life. Out of my future. That was it. 4 to 5 minutes later, she finally came back outside. She had 2 suitcases with her. That was it. 2 suitcases to represent 4 years of our life together. She stood there for a moment, shifting her weight awkwardly, and then tried to say that maybe, eventually, we could still be friends. Friends. After destroying 4 years of my life for a high school nostalgia trip, she thought friendship might still be on the table. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She got into her car, backed out of the driveway, and drove away. And just like that, it was over. 4 years ended in one conversation, one betrayal, one choice she couldn't undo. I went back inside the house, and it felt completely empty. Not just quiet, empty. Like all the life had been sucked out of the walls. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating. Her engagement ring was still sitting on the coffee table where she'd left it. I picked it up, turned it over in my hand for a second, then put it back in the box and shoved it into my dresser drawer. I didn't know what else to do with it. It felt wrong to look at it, but worse to throw it away. The next few days were absolutely brutal. I took time off work because I couldn't focus on anything electrical. My mind just wasn't there. On Tuesday, I almost shocked myself twice because I was completely distracted. When you're dealing with 480 volts, being unfocused isn't just careless, it's dangerous. My foreman finally sent me home after I nearly walked straight into a ladder for the 3rd time that day. The house felt like a tomb. Every corner held some memory of Sasha. Everywhere I looked, she was there. The coffee mug she always used was still sitting in the cabinet. Her favorite blanket was folded neatly on the back of the couch. Little things you never notice when someone's still around, suddenly stood out everywhere, like they were mocking me. And then it got even more messed up. Within 24 hours, her family started reaching out. The first message was from her mom. A text that read, "Alex, I know this is hard, but Sasha has found her soulmate. Jonathan has always been the love of her life. I hope you can understand and be happy for them. Be happy for them. 4 years of my life, and she wanted me to be happy that her daughter ditched me for some high school memory." Then her dad called and left a long voicemail. He talked about how sometimes things happen for a reason. How Sasha and Jonathan belonged together because they had real history. A deep connection that went back to when they were young. He said I seemed like a good guy, but sometimes love just finds a way, and this was meant to be. Meant to be. Like the years I spent with his daughter meant nothing compared to a teenage romance from a decade ago. Her sister texted me too. Some garbage about how she'd never seen Sasha as happy as she was with Jonathan. How they were perfect for each other, and true love always wins in the end. Like I was some villain standing in the way of their fairytale reunion instead of the guy who got completely screwed over. The worst part wasn't just what they said. It was how they acted like I should be grateful. Like I should thank them for letting me know I was apparently just keeping Sasha's seat warm until her real soulmate came back around. Like I was supposed to gracefully step aside and wish them well. Not one of them apologized. Not one of them acknowledged that what Sasha did was messed up. They were all just celebrating her true love, without giving a single thought to the collateral damage she left behind. I blocked every single one of them. Social media, phone numbers, email addresses. I didn't need their fake sympathy or twisted logic poisoning my head while I was trying to process what had happened. My parents were a different story. They were devastated. My mom actually cried when I told her everything. She'd been looking forward to having Sasha as a daughter-in-law. She'd already started planning outfits for the wedding. My dad just went quiet, his jaw tight with anger. He kept asking if I wanted him to drive over and have a conversation with Jonathan. I had to talk him out of it. The last thing I needed was my 58-year-old father getting arrested for assault while defending my honor. though part of me appreciated that he was ready to throw hands for his son. My sister Evelyn became my lifeline. She showed up every couple of days with takeout, making sure I was eating something besides whatever random junk I had in the pantry. She sat with me while I vented, never trying to fix anything or give advice. She just listened, and agreed that Sasha was a piece of work. The best part? Evelyn wasn't surprised. She told me she'd been getting weird vibes from Sasha for months but didn't want to say anything without proof. She mentioned how Sasha would get this distant look whenever commitment or marriage came up, like her mind was somewhere else entirely. Evelyn also helped me go through Sasha's leftover stuff. It was shocking how much someone accumulates in 4 years. Hair products filling the bathroom, random clothes she hadn't grabbed during her rushed exit, books and magazines scattered everywhere. We boxed it all up, and I dropped it off at her sister's place without saying a word. Work eventually helped distract me. My co-workers knew something big had happened, but nobody pried. Construction guys don't really do emotional deep dives, which was perfect. About 3 weeks later, the engagement announcement went up. Professional photos. Some park downtown. Both of them smiling like nothing had ever gone wrong. Her ring was definitely bigger than mine, which shouldn't have bothered me, but it did. Classic move. Had to one-up the ex-fiancé, even though his own relationship had imploded. And the comments? They were even worse. Meant to be. True love always finds a way. So happy you found each other again. Those were the comments flooding their engagement post, like people were celebrating some beautiful love story instead of the wreckage of my relationship. Like nothing had been destroyed to make their fairy tale possible. That's when I started wondering if maybe, just maybe, I'd dodged a bullet. Anyone who could throw away 4 years of a real relationship for some high school nostalgia trip probably wasn't marriage material anyway. That thought helped a little. It didn't erase the pain, though. It still hurt like hell. But at least I found out before the wedding. Before 5 years had passed. Before there were 2 kids involved and a mortgage and a life that would have been 10 times harder to untangle. Evelyn kept reminding me of that. She told me this said everything about Sasha's character and absolutely nothing about mine. That I deserved someone who wouldn't even consider leaving, let alone actually do it. Someone who saw commitment as something valuable, not something disposable the moment a better option showed up. She was right. Still, logic doesn't make it hurt any less when someone you love decides you're not worth keeping. After the engagement announcement, I stopped looking at social media altogether. I figured whatever happened next in their fairytale romance wasn't my business anymore. I needed to focus on putting my own life back together instead of watching them build theirs on the ruins of ours. And honestly, I'd been doing pretty good the past few months. Work was steady. I picked up some lucrative side jobs. Slowly, I started feeling like myself again. Like my head was finally screwed back on straight after the whole engagement disaster. Then yesterday happened. I got a text that made me question whether I was living in some alternate reality where people had completely lost their minds. Sasha, the woman who destroyed our 4-year relationship for her high school ex, had the absolute balls to ask me for money for their wedding. I'm not exaggerating. I wish I were. Let me break this down, because the audacity is so unreal I'm still trying to process it. It was a Tuesday afternoon when my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. At first, I ignored it. Then I looked again and realized it was Sasha. I'd blocked her on everything months ago, so she must have gotten a new phone or was using someone else's number to contact me. The message started off innocent enough. Hey, Alex. Hope you're doing well. Was wondering if we could talk about something important. My first instinct was to delete it and block the number immediately. Nothing good ever comes from an ex reaching out, especially one who left you for someone else. But curiosity got the better of me. I figured whatever she wanted couldn't possibly make my life any worse than she already had. So I replied and asked what she wanted to talk about. Her next message made my jaw drop. She told me she and Jonathan were planning their wedding for next month and were coming up short on funds. Then she asked if I could help them out with some money to cover the difference. Not a loan. Not advice. Just straight up cash. Money to marry the guy she left me for. I had to read the message 3 times before it fully sank in. This woman broke our engagement, destroyed 4 years of my life, chose another man over me, and then had the nerve to ask me to help pay for their wedding. The wedding that was supposed to be ours before she decided Jonathan mattered more. But somehow, it got even worse. Her follow-up text said, "Jonathan doesn't know I'm asking you for money, so don't worry about that." As if hiding it from her fiancé was supposed to make me feel better. Like I should be relieved she wasn't telling him about our conversation. The sheer audacity of it all was breathtaking. She thought so little of me, had so little respect for what we'd been through, that asking me to fund her new relationship seemed reasonable. In her mind, I was apparently just an ATM she could access when things got tough. I sat there staring at my phone for a solid 10 minutes, trying to figure out if this was some kind of joke. Maybe Jonathan was testing me. Maybe her friends were messing with both of us. But no. The tone was completely serious. She genuinely thought this was something I might consider doing. Part of me wanted to call her and scream. To ask how completely delusional she had to be to think I'd give her money for anything, let alone her wedding to the guy she chose over me. But I knew that would just give her the reaction she was probably expecting. So instead, I asked her why she thought I'd want to help with their wedding expenses. Her response was somehow even more unbelievable than the request itself. She said we'd been together for 4 years and that she knew I was a good person who wanted people to be happy. She said that even though things didn't work out between us, she hoped I'd want her to have the wedding of her dreams, because that's what good people do. Good people support their ex's happiness, even when it comes at their own expense. The manipulation was so obvious it was almost insulting. She was trying to guilt me into paying for their wedding by appealing to my character, making it seem like refusing would make me a bad person instead of someone with basic self-respect. Then she mentioned how much I'd made on recent side jobs. That part really creeped me out. How the hell did she know about my work situation? Either she'd been asking mutual friends about me or doing some social media stalking to figure out my finances. Both options were disturbing. She also brought up how Jonathan's construction business was struggling right now. How they'd already put down deposits on venues and vendors they couldn't afford to lose. And there it was. The real reason. She said they only needed a few $1,000s to make everything work. Just a little extra to smooth things out. She even added that she'd always remember how I helped make their special day possible. A few $1,000s. To help pay for the wedding that was supposed to be ours. From the guy she dumped so she could marry someone else. That was the moment something inside me finally snapped. I responded and told her she had to be out of her goddamn mind if she thought I'd give her a single penny for anything, especially her wedding. I told her that asking your ex-fiancé to fund your new relationship was probably the most tone-deaf thing I'd ever heard in my life. Her response came immediately, and it was exactly what I expected. She got defensive. Said she was only asking because she knew I cared about her happiness. Said she thought I was mature enough to move past our breakup and help out as a friend, because apparently destroying someone's life entitles you to their continued financial support. That was it. I told her to lose my number and never contact me again. I said if she was short on wedding money, maybe she should ask her family, the same people who were so supportive of her decision to leave me. Or better yet, maybe Jonathan should figure out how to afford his own wedding instead of having his fiancé beg her ex for cash. She tried one last time. She accused me of being vindictive. Said I was holding grudges instead of moving on like an adult. Claimed that helping them would prove I was truly over our relationship and genuinely wished them well. More manipulation, dressed up as relationship advice. I blocked the number and went back to my day. But I couldn't stop thinking about the sheer balls it took to even make that request. Months after destroying our relationship, she honestly thought I'd be willing to bankroll her new one. Like I was some charitable organization dedicated to funding her happiness, no matter how badly she treated me. The worst part was how casual she was about it. No acknowledgement of how inappropriate the request was. No apology for putting me in that position. No recognition that asking your ex-fiancé for wedding money isn't exactly normal behavior. Just this entitled expectation that I'd want to help because we used to care about each other. Like our history gave her permanent access to my wallet whenever she needed extra cash. It made me wonder what other boundaries she'd be willing to cross if money ever got tight. Would she ask me to babysit their kids someday? Help with mortgage payments? Co-sign a loan when Jonathan's business failed completely? The entitlement was absolutely staggering. 4 years together, and she learned nothing about who I actually am if she thought I'd fund her wedding to another man. At least now I know for sure that leaving was the best thing that ever happened to our relationship. I can't imagine being married to someone with such a warped sense of what's appropriate. Well, it turns out fairy tales don't always have happy endings. I got the full story from my sister, Evelyn, last week. She'd been hearing bits and pieces through mutual friends but waited until she had all the details before filling me in. Smart move, because this was some serious drama, and I'm honestly glad I got to watch it from the sidelines. Sasha and Jonathan's perfect reunion lasted exactly 6 months before everything went to hell. Apparently, Jonathan had been cheating on her since pretty much day one. And not just casual hookups, either full-blown relationships with multiple women at the same time. The guy was running 3 different girlfriends, all of whom thought they were his only one. A real piece of work. Eventually, one of them found out about the others and decided to blow up his entire operation. She contacted Sasha directly with screenshots of conversations, photos from dates, even videos of them together. The kind of evidence that leaves zero room for denial or excuses. When Sasha confronted Jonathan, he didn't even bother lying. He just told her he wasn't ready to be tied down and that she should have known better than to expect monogamy from him. Like cheating was just part of his personality, something she should have accepted from the beginning. But here's where it gets really messed up. The cheating wasn't even the worst part. They got into a huge fight at his apartment. It started with yelling and accusations, typical relationship drama when someone gets caught red-handed. But then Jonathan completely lost it when Sasha said she was leaving him. He grabbed her hard enough to leave finger marks on both her arms. When she tried to walk out, he shoved her into the wall so hard she hit her head and ended up with a black eye. The neighbors heard the commotion and called the cops. Evelyn told me this wasn't the first time he'd gotten physical, either. Apparently, Sasha had been covering up bruises for weeks, making excuses about bumping into things or having accidents at work. Classic abuse victim behavior, stuff nobody really notices until it becomes impossible to ignore. The whole timeline is unbelievable when you really think about it. 6 months ago, she left our stable, 4-year relationship because she couldn't say no to her first love. She threw away everything we'd built together for some high school fantasy that existed only in her head. What she got instead was 6 months of lies, cheating, and abuse from a guy who never gave a damn about her. Jonathan saw an opportunity to have some fun with his old girlfriend, and he took it. Consequences be damned. As soon as the novelty wore off, Jonathan showed his true colors. Part of me feels bad for Sasha, because nobody deserves to get hit, no matter how stupid their decisions were. But mostly, if I'm being honest, I feel vindicated as hell. She chose excitement over stability, passion over trust. She chose her first love over the guy who actually loved her. And in the end, she got exactly what she chose. I hope those 6 months of true love were worth destroying the 4 years we built together. The really crazy part is how Jonathan's handling the fallout. Instead of trying to make amends or get help for his anger issues, he's doubling down on being a complete jerk. He's been telling mutual friends that Sasha was too clingy, too dramatic, that the relationship just wasn't working for him. No mention of the cheating. No mention of the violence. Just painting himself as the victim of some unstable ex-girlfriend who couldn't handle his free spirit. A classic abuser move. Make yourself look reasonable while your victim deals with the aftermath of your actions. Sasha's apparently staying with her parents now, forced to deal with the reality that her perfect soulmate turned out to be a complete piece of work. The same parents who were so supportive of her decision to leave me are now watching their daughter try to pick up the pieces of her life. Funny how perspective changes once cheating and abuse enter the picture. Her family isn't so excited about Jonathan anymore. Where are all those comments about true love finding a way now? The same family that celebrated Sasha dumping me for her high school ex is now living with the consequences of that choice. Suddenly, Jonathan isn't the perfect man they thought he was back when he was stealing someone else's fiancée. Evelyn also mentioned that people have been asking about me lately. Mutual friends who remember how Sasha left, who are now wondering how I'm handling all this drama. Most of them seem to realize now that I was the stable option she threw away for this disaster. I told Evelyn to let them know I'm doing great and that I've completely moved on, which is true. I started seeing someone new a few months ago, and things are going really well. Her name's Jade, and she's nothing like Sasha, which is exactly what I needed. Jade knows about my past with Sasha, but she doesn't make it weird or competitive. She just acknowledges that what happened sucked and focuses on building something good between us instead of dwelling on old drama. It's a complete opposite of the mind games and emotional manipulation I dealt with before. We're taking things slow, making sure we're both ready before making any big decisions. A novel concept, especially after watching Sasha blow up her life over a fantasy reunion. The contrast between my life now and the chaos she's dealing with is pretty stark. I'm building something stable with someone who actually wants to be with me, while she's learning the hard way that excitement doesn't last when it's built on lies. Sometimes the best revenge really is just living well while your ex's life falls apart because of their own bad choices. Sasha wanted passion and excitement over boring old stability. Well, she got plenty of excitement, just not the kind she was hoping for. And guess who's been trying to crawl back into my life ever since? It started about 2 weeks after Evelyn told me what happened. My phone began ringing from numbers I didn't recognize. At first, I assumed it was work calls or spam, so I let them go to voicemail. Big mistake. The first voicemail was Sasha's voice. She sounded absolutely wrecked, crying, her voice shaking, barely getting words out between sobs. She said she needed to talk to me about everything that happened, that she'd made a huge mistake and really needed my help right now. I deleted it without listening to the rest. Whatever crisis she was dealing with wasn't my problem anymore. She made her choice 8 months ago when she picked Jonathan over me. Living with the consequences of that decision was on her, not me. But the calls didn't stop. Different numbers every time. Like she was borrowing phones from friends or using those temporary number apps. Sometimes I'd get multiple calls in a single day, all going straight to voicemail because I'd stopped answering unknown numbers altogether. The messages grew more desperate with each one. They started with apologies, how sorry she was for everything that happened between us, how she finally realized that what we had was real and special, and how she'd thrown it away for something that turned out to be completely fake. Then they shifted to Jonathan. She talked about how he'd lied to her from day one, cheated with multiple women, made her feel worthless and stupid for believing in their relationship. She talked about the violence, about how he'd gotten physical when she tried to leave, and how she was scared of what he might do next. The messages kept escalating. She started saying she understood now that I'd been the good guy all along. That Jonathan had shown her what real love wasn't, and that it made her realize what she lost when she walked away from me. She said she'd been stupid to think teenage feelings mattered more than actual adult love. Classic manipulation tactics. Paint herself as the victim who'd finally learned her lesson. Cast me as the hero she'd been too blind to appreciate. Try to guilt me into feeling responsible for helping her through a crisis she'd created entirely on her own. Then came the messages about wanting to try again. About how she knew she'd hurt me, but people make mistakes. How couldn't we work past this together? How she was a different person now. Someone who finally understood what really mattered in a relationship. A different person. The same woman who'd been sneaking around with her ex for months while planning our wedding. The same person who chose excitement over stability and then acted shocked when excitement turned out to be dangerous. The voicemails started getting longer, more detailed. She'd talk for minutes about specific things she missed about our relationship, how safe she'd felt with me, how I'd never made her doubt herself or worry about other women, how she'd taken all of that for granted until Jonathan showed her what the opposite looked like. She talked about our apartment, about how she missed coming home to someone who was genuinely happy to see her. How Jonathan's place always felt temporary and cold, like she was just visiting instead of building a life with someone. Some of the voicemails weren't sad at all. They were angry. She accused me of being cold and heartless for not responding to someone who was clearly in crisis. Said I was holding grudges instead of being mature enough to help someone I used to care about. Those ones actually made me laugh. The same woman who destroyed our relationship was now furious that I wouldn't drop everything to rescue her from the mess she'd made. Like I owed her emotional support after she'd chosen someone else over me. The calls started coming at weird hours. Too. Late at night, when she was probably drunk and drowning in self-pity. Early in the morning, when she'd wake up and remember her life was completely screwed. Middle of the day, when something random reminded her of our relationship. Different timing, same themes. I started carrying my phone on silent just to avoid hearing it ring non-stop. Jade noticed I was getting stressed and asked what was going on. I told her about the calls, and she suggested I just change my number entirely. Part of me resisted out of stubbornness. Why should I have to change my contact info because my ex couldn't take a hint? But Jade pointed out that my peace of mind mattered more than proving a point Sasha would never understand anyway. She was right. Even without answering, the calls were affecting me. Coming home to 6 missed calls and knowing every one of them was someone begging me to fix their life was exhausting. But before I could change my number, the calls stopped as suddenly as they'd started. I didn't hear from her for almost a week, the longest gap since this whole thing began. I figured maybe she'd finally gotten the message that I wasn't interested in being her emotional support system. Or maybe she'd found someone else to dump her problems on. Turns out I was wrong. She wasn't done trying to get my attention. She was just changing tactics. Saturday morning, Jade was staying over for the weekend, which had become pretty normal for us. We'd been talking about her officially moving in someday, maybe finding a bigger place together, taking things slow, but clearly heading somewhere good. I was making breakfast while Jade was in the shower when someone started pounding on my front door like there was an emergency. Not knocking, pounding. Like the building was on fire and they needed everyone out immediately. I looked through the peephole and saw Sasha standing there with her mom. Both of them looked rough. Sasha had clearly been crying for hours. Her makeup was smeared everywhere, hair a complete mess, wearing some oversized sweatshirt that made her look like she'd completely given up on life. Her mom looked furious and determined, like she was on a mission to fix her daughter's problems. The same woman who'd texted me months ago about how Sasha had found her soulmate was now standing on my doorstep, ready to help clean up the disaster that soulmate had created. I didn't open the door. They kept pounding, growing more frantic by the minute. I could hear Sasha saying my name through the wood, begging me to just talk to her for 5 minutes. Her mom was more blunt, pointing out that my truck was in the driveway, so they knew I was home. Then Jade came downstairs wearing one of my t-shirts, hair still wet, looking relaxed and happy, the complete opposite of the chaos unfolding outside my door. She asked who was making all the noise, and I told her it was my ex and her mom. Before I could stop her, Jade walked over and opened the door. The pounding stopped instantly. Sasha's face cycled through about 5 different emotions in 2 seconds. Shock that someone else answered, confusion about who this woman was, then pure anger when she realized what it meant. Her mom looked just as surprised, though she tried to hide it better. Jade handled the whole thing perfectly. Calm, polite, but firm. She didn't get pulled into drama or explanations, just stated clearly that I was busy. I came up behind her and rested my hand on her shoulder. The moment Sasha saw me, her entire expression shifted into desperate relief, like my presence alone was supposed to magically fix everything. She immediately started talking, saying she'd been trying to reach me for weeks, that we needed to talk about everything that happened. She told me she'd made the biggest mistake of her life when she left me for Jonathan. Her mom jumped in right away with the sob story, how Sasha had been through hell with Jonathan, how he wasn't who they thought he was. Interesting how Jonathan went from being Sasha's soulmate to some dangerous stranger the moment he showed his true colors. The same woman who once told me how perfect they were together was now acting like she'd never supported the relationship at all. Funny how that worked out. I kept my responses short and direct. I wasn't interested in getting pulled into emotional manipulation or guilt trips built around our history. Sasha kept looking back and forth between me and Jade, clearly shocked that I'd moved on. She asked how long we'd been together and seemed genuinely stunned when she realized it had only been 10 months since she left me for her ex. She launched into the routine, how what we'd had was real, how Jonathan was just confusion and nostalgia, how our relationship had been solid and meaningful compared to the fairytale reunion that turned into a nightmare. Too little. Too late. I told her what we'd had was past tense. It ended the moment she chose someone else over me. Her mom tried a different angle, appealing to my character, talking about what a good man I was, how Sasha had learned from her mistake, asking if I couldn't find it in my heart to forgive her. I explained that I already had, for my own peace of mind. But forgiving someone doesn't mean taking them back. Forgiveness is about letting go of anger, not giving someone another chance to hurt you. Sasha grew more desperate, asking why I wouldn't even consider trying again. I told her the truth. I didn't trust her anymore. She'd shown me who she really was when things got complicated. And that person was someone who abandoned our relationship for a teenage fantasy. When she tried to say she'd just been confused about her feelings, I shut that down. She wasn't confused. She was selfish. She wanted to keep me as a backup while she figured out whether Jonathan was a better option. Sasha broke down crying, begging for another chance, saying people make mistakes. I reminded her I'd given her a chance for 4 years and an engagement ring, which she traded for 6 months with Jonathan. When she called those 6 months hell and talked about how Jonathan was nothing like me, I told her that wasn't my problem. The consequences of her choices weren't something I needed to fix. Her mom made one final attempt, asking if I really wouldn't consider taking back someone who'd realized what she lost. I told her Sasha hadn't realized what she lost. She realized her backup plan was better than her first choice. Those are two very different things. Throughout the entire conversation, Jade stayed right beside me. I could feel her support without her needing to say a word. She answered their questions about our relationship honestly, without getting defensive or territorial. When Sasha's anger started bleeding through the desperation, realizing I'd moved on so quickly, I pointed out that I moved on after she left me, which is what normal people do when someone chooses someone else over them. When she tried to guilt me by saying our 4 years together meant nothing, I told her they meant everything, right up until the moment she decided Jonathan meant more. I looked at the 2 women standing on my doorstep. One had destroyed our relationship for a fantasy. The other had supported that decision until it completely blew up. 10 months ago, I would have done anything for Sasha. I would have married her, built a life with her, trusted her completely. Now she was just someone from my past who'd made terrible decisions and wanted me to clean up the aftermath. I told them no. That single word hit both of them hard. Sasha's face collapsed, and her mom looked like I'd slapped her. They stood there for another minute, probably hoping I'd change my mind or invite them in so the conversation could continue. But there was nothing left to say. Sasha made her choice. She lived with the consequences. Now she wanted to undo it. Life doesn't work that way. They walked back to their car without another word. Jade closed the door and locked it. She asked if I was okay. I wasn't just okay, I felt relief. Standing there with Jade, watching my ex and her mom drive away after begging for another chance, I felt nothing but peace. Sasha wanted excitement over stability. Jonathan over me. Her first love over real love. She got exactly what she chose. And I got what I deserved. Someone who chooses me first, every single day, without hesitation.